Welcome to our final lesson in the wedding foliage course. We have gone over some really beautiful foliage, and there's just so many different ways to use them, not only just for wedding arrangements, but for other arrangements also. In this final lesson, we're going to make the Dusty Miller. Now, the Dusty Miller is a gorgeous greenery to use in weddings, in wedding bouquets, because it has a unique look to it. It's like a sage color, but it also is a white dusty color, which gives it the Dusty Miller's name. And this is one of those foliage that can be used in many arrangements besides weddings. I grow Dusty Miller in the summertime, and I often plant it with coleuses, with zinnias. It gives it just a unique, different look to the whole arrangement. So as you see in this photo, the Dusty Miller has a base sage color to it, and then it is kind of ghosted a little bit in white, and then it has a fuzzy look to it. So I'm going to show you all the techniques on how to get these looks and to get the uniqueness of this particular foliage. So why don't we get started on our final lesson? Okay, so for the Dusty Miller, we're going to be using white 26 gauge wire. And we want the 26 gauge because this is a little bit of a heavier foliage. So you want something that's going to be able to support it. And I cut my floral wire in thirds. So we have 6 of these here. For the Dusty Miller branch that we're going to be making, I'm going to make 3 of each size. There's 2 sizes. So in this mold, these are the Dusty Miller right here. This is the large one, and this is the smaller one. And we're going to be making 3 of each of these. This is not going to be where you need to make a ton of leaves. We're just going to be making 3 of each because these are larger, and we're going to make 1 branch. All right, so then we're going to go back to the sage color gum paste. Now the sizes that we're going to be needing are a small 7 and a small 8. It fits pretty nicely through. So you'll make 3 of these. And I'm going to make all 3 of my balls for both sizes because we're only making a total of 6. Okay, so we have our 3 small, so we'll place them under the cup. And then let's do the 3 large. All right, so we're going to put our 3 large back, and I'm going to start with the small. So we'll do a 1 small. Let me put this away. All right. Now we're going to also use our scraper because we're going to do the best we can to get this rolled out to the size, and then we're just going to be pushing actually we're going to be using the small one. We're just going to be pushing the gum paste around, and we're going to scrape it to get all the details. So I'm going to add a little bit of shortening, condition my gum paste, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to also add shortening in my mold because this is the first time we're using this particular mold. Alrighty, so you want to get your gum paste into a nice smooth ball, get all the cracks out. Well, if you make your foliage with cracks in it, then it jeopardizes the strength and it could cause breaks after it dries. So we want to get our gum paste rolled out to almost the size, it doesn't have to be completely, but almost the size of our foliage. And then we're just going to press it in, and we're going to cover up everything here. Now, we're going to get our scraper, and we're going to just scrape a little bit at a time using a sawing motion back and forth. And if it lifts up, that's fine. Just be careful of putting it back down. There we go. And if it feels a little thin to you, you can always add back at this point because it has not started drying yet. Once it starts drying, you can't do that. But while the gum paste is soft, you can always add back to it. All right, so we're going to work on here. Then let's turn it around, and you just do a little bit at a time in a sawing motion back and forth. You don't want to scrape too much off at once. And I think that should be good for this, because what we do now is we just maneuver the gum paste into the mold, into all the crevices of the mold. Now, if you feel there's an area that's thin, which I see an area, then you can, like I said, you can add back. Oops, that one seems to want to not stay. All right. And you want to make sure you press good so you get the impression in there also. So we're going to clean it up now. Now that we have our gum paste in the mold, then we start cleaning it up. You want to clean up your edges, because if you don't, then it's going to look a little sloppy when you pull it out. So you want all the edges cleaned up so you have a nice clean piece in the mold. Now, when you will see that this is going, the gum paste is going all the way down. We don't want it to go all the way down. There is a spot right here. You can actually see the line where the foliage actually ends and where the stem will pick up, and you want to scrape that away. So you only want to leave that much in there. So let me put the rest of this away. You're going to be scraping off. This is a technique where you're going to be doing a lot of scraping because of the different branches that are going out. All right, so we're going to get our the 26 gauge white wire. We're going to add some edible glue onto the end. And this is a little bit of a tricky part. So you want to just very gently bring it in through the groove where it should be and just slide it up. And you can turn it as it's going up, and keep your finger on top here because you want to feel it as it's going up. This is a very shallow mold, so for a greenery like this, you want to be very careful. And you could come up to maybe about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way up. You don't have to go all the way up. And I think that's good right there. Now, if you feel like your wire is showing through, you can always kind of pat it down a little bit, and it kind of puts it back in the gum paste. And then you just readjust your edges again. Okay, so now that you have your wire in, you want to get a veining on the back. And we're just going to go back to using a universal veiner, again, leaf veiner. And we're just going to line it up through the center, give it a press. Then we turn this upside down. And there you have your beautiful dusty miller. And then we're going to put the veining side down, the good veining side. And we're going to get our Dresden tool, and we're just going to thin out the edges, just only the tips. We're just going to thin out the tips. Okay. All right, and then we're going to let these dry, this particular one. And when you dry it, you can have it hanging downward. You want the tip to hang down a little bit to give it some movement. So here we have our first one. And I'm going to show you a large one, and then we will stop the camera so we can finish up all of our leaves before we move on. All right, so we're going to get some shortening. And then we're going to roll it into a nice smooth ball. Okay, then we want to roll it into a log, a little bit of a log. You want to roll it until it covers at least most of the leaf. And that's good right there. All right, so you want to start at the top of the flower and you just work your way down and you work outward and you cover the whole entire flower, or I'm sorry, the leaf, and make sure it reaches all of the crevices and it gets pushed in there. Okay, then we're going to get our scraper and we're just going to start in a sawing motion, scraping a little bit at a time. And you want to go from the inward outward. And you just don't want to do too much at once or you're going to end up pulling all that gum paste out. Sorry if I'm shaking the camera. And as you are going along, just press back the gum paste. And you can use your finger as a guide, and your finger will help keep the some of the gum paste from lifting. Alrighty, now you just want to maneuver it in there. Now this area right here and this area right here, it looks like it needs more gum paste, so we're going to work the gum paste in there, going to pull away from the areas that have extra, and we're going to work it into the areas that need more. So you just kind of play around with it. You can do more scraping if you feel you need to scrape more. But you want to get the gum paste in there nice and smooth. And if you need to pull some from down here, what you do is you just gradually work it up. And it works its way. And I think we're doing pretty well here. Now, as you can see, one of these leaves takes a little time because these have a lot of different crevices here in the mold, and you have to kind of play around it just to get the mold filled. And then you want to clean it up once you get all of your mold filled. This area right here seems to need a little more. So I'm going to put a little tiny bit here, a little tiny bit over here. So before it starts drying, you want to press any extra in there that you need to put in. And you don't want to go too far again. You can see, you'll be able to see in this mold that it goes to just about here. So you want to leave this empty. And then we're going to get our wire. I'm going to add just a little bit of edible glue on the end. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to work our way up into the foliage. And you want to keep your finger here as a pulse. You want to feel it as it's going up. And you want to try to keep it going straight up. you'll be able to feel if you're heading in the wrong direction. Say if you feel like it's going over that way, you want to pull back a little bit and then get back on track again. Now I'm feeling, here we go. All right, so we're way up here, so we're good. All right, so then you want to, before you pull it out, you want to get it nice and smooth and adjust it. Then we're going to do a quick veining going up. We have the veining on the back. Pull it out. Just peel away. And we're going to turn it around to the veining. The good veining is on the bottom. And we'll get our Dresden tool and we just kind of thin out each little point. And you want to be gentle here. You don't want to do too much or you're going to end up ripping it. And that's it. Now, if your wire peeks through a little bit, that's okay. The wire is still going to dry around the gum paste. And it's a little flimsy right now, but we're going to allow it to have time to dry. And once it dries, it will be adhered to the gum paste. And then we are also going to be coloring. And when we color the white color in here, you're not even going to see the wire. All right, so we're going to put this one on. And you just want to let the tip go back a little bit and let that dry. All right, so we're going to do 2 more of the large, 2 more of the small, and we're going to let them dry. And I would prefer to let these dry overnight. They are a little bit heavier than the other leaves that we've done. So I really like to give them a great chance to dry. So I'm going to dry them overnight after we have them made. And then we're going to come back and we're going to use floral tape on the stems and then we'll put them together before we color them. All right, so we're going to be putting together our Dusty Miller and coloring it. Now we need to tape the stems with gray floral tape, and I have already done it with all of them except for one. I'll just show you the one. I figured I didn't really need to do all of them because we've done this over and over with each of the lessons. So we'll just tape up this final one. And we're only going to use 5 of the leaves. And there we go. All right, so we have this one. We're going to do the 3 smaller ones, and we're going to do 2 larger ones. So we'll pick these 2 right here. Okay, so then we're going to get half width gray floral tape. Stretch it out. And we're also going to need a 22 gauge wire. It doesn't matter if it's white or green. All right, so then we're going to pick our top stem. And we're just going to go around. And then we're going to get another one. And I'm going to bend it slightly to the right. So this one's going to come down just a little bit. And then we'll take our other small one and we'll bend it to the opposite side. And you just want to give it a little bit of a stem. You don't want it to give too much there. And then we're going to just wrap that around. This is where we're going to add the extra one because we're getting close to the bottom, and the larger ones, they're a little bit heavier. So we do want to add that 22 gauge wire. So what I'm going to do beforehand is get our stems and bend them one right and one left so they'll be ready. We get our 22 gauge wire and we bring it in right here. and then you start wrapping it around. Then we can bring our other leaf in, our large leaf. And then we're going to go all the way down. And I think I'm just going to stop here. Okay, we'll finish the stem here. All right. Now we have our stem, and then now we are going to color everything. Okay, now before you start coloring them, you want to turn on your steamer, because I'm going to show you a neat little trick that I learned from Nicholas Lodge to be able to get that dusty look on the leaves. All right, so we're going to be using white. Now, white, you can use white color dust, which is basically titanium dioxide. And I actually bought titanium dioxide in a container, so I have it. And so it's basically what the white color dust is made out of. All right, so I'm going to get just a little bit of this and put it right on my parchment paper. We're going to set that aside because we're going to be using that again. And then you want to get a light brush, just a nice fluffy brush, something that's soft, because these are very delicate stems and you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to break them. So we're going to dust the center. Just want to go up the center, and you can go into the individual veining also, because it'll give it a more natural look. You just don't want to do the edges. And then you can turn it over and do the back the same way. All right, so I think we're good on the back. And let's see if I want to do a little bit more on the front. All right, so we're going to move this white over. We're going to be reusing this white. All right, so now we want to color the edges, just the edges, with the eucalyptus color. So we're going to switch papers. And I have my green brush now, and the eucalyptus is over here. And we're just going to dust the edges. You can actually lay it down still if you'd like to do that. You just want to dust the edges with the eucalyptus color. You want to be very gentle with these edges because they are little and fragile and they will easily break on you. Okay, so we have some great coloration in here. And then we're going to use brown. It's basically the darker brown that I added cornstarch to. So we need our brown brush. All right, so then we're just going to add some brown, a little bit of brown in the stem, at the base of the stem. And you can do both sides. Okay, just so you have a little coloration at the stem to give it some depth. All right, now let's get rid of this. We're not going to need this anymore. Now I'm going to show you a trick that I learned. We're going to get some semolina, and this is basically semolina that you would use to make pasta with. And I have a little bit left. I usually, I have a whole container and I use it a lot for pollen and things like that. So I'm going to use the remainder of this to make like a dustiness on in there, and then we're going to be sprinkling it onto the Dusty Miller. But what we're going to do to be able to make it attach, we're going to steam our Dusty Miller so it's nice and sticky, and then once it's sticky, we're going to sprinkle the white titanium with the semolina onto it, and it'll give it that dustiness, the dusty look to it. So we're going to need more, because we don't want this to be yellow. Semolina is yellow, and we want this to be white. So we're going to add quite a bit. And the semolina gives it the texture to help it look almost like it's like pollen. That's why we use it a lot when we're making stamens, and we use it for the pollen for the stamens. All right. Now, you want to be able to sprinkle it on, like dust it on. So I don't have a sprinkler, actually, a duster. So what I'm going to do is I took the cup that we were using to cover our balls of paste, and I cut some holes at the bottom, and I'm going to just pour this in there and do kind of like a shaker thing. I don't need this anymore. I have a zillion of them, so it's okay that I cut one. All right, so you're going to get your steamer. All right, so you want to get some good steam on it. All right. Then we're going to put the semolina in this cup. We're going to lay this down, and we're just going to sprinkle it over. And if it's not coming out very well, you can actually sprinkle it on with your fingers. Just grind it up in your fingers so it comes off really, really fine. You don't want big chunks on there. And then you can turn it over and tap off any excess. And see, you have that dustiness on the leaves. So I'm going to do the back side also. And it gives it the characteristic of this particular foliage. So you can just kind of rub it in with your fingers. This is working, but it's just kind of too fine. So I'm going to grind it with my fingers and then tap off the excess. Okay, so you have the Dusty Miller and a white finger. So this is a beautiful plant. I love this in the summertime. I use it all over my yard and garden in flower beds. All right, thank you for watching. And there you have it. 7 beautiful foliage to add to your wedding bouquet collection. These are great to go with your wedding sugar flowers. You can also use them for holiday wreaths, to make wreaths. You can use them for wedding wreaths, circle wreaths, and make that as a focal point in making your cakes. There's so many uses for these 7 greeneries. And I just love it. I just love every one of them. I think they're all great, and I hope you do too. And I hope you got a lot of information out of here. And I hope you enjoyed my training, my style. And if you do, I have many other courses that in my course library, and you can. There is a link down below to that you can write down and take yourself to, or you can go to my website at pattydefonde.com, and one of the tabs at the top you'll see online classes. Just click on that, it'll take you right to all of the classes that I have to offer. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon.